Ladies and gentlemen, welcome into another edition of the Stampede. Not going to be a full podcast, but some crazy news broke out. Carson Wentz has been traded to the Indianapolis Colts for, some draft picks. We'll talk about that. That's pretty much all we're going to talk about. I don't know how long this is going to be, but it's kind of like an emergency episode. We weren't going to record again this week, but since this happened, we have to. This is huge news, and it changed the landscape of the NFL as we know it. So let's get right into it. But before that, Ashton, how you doing, man?
I'm doing good. This was a trade that I've kind of already seen coming these last 3-4 months. It just seemed like the perfect fit anyway. So looking forward to talking about that trade. And other than that, just getting ready to enjoy another good weekend. Friday is right around the corner, my friend.
Yeah, and I would imagine I'm pretty sure that Friday is when people are going to be able to hear this.
Oh, that's true. That's right, because this is a pre-record.
Yeah, happy Friday, everybody. We're recording this Thursday night. So yeah, let's get right into it. But before that, I want to take care of a few things. Whatever platform you're hearing this on, whether it's YouTube, Spotify, or Apple, please do all you can to support Ashton and I. We want to do this, talk football, for a living. We're going to school for that, for Christ's sake. So let's, we might as well start somewhere. And yeah, do whatever you can on whatever platform you're listening on to support us, whether that's liking, subscribing on YouTube, whether that's giving us 5-star reviews on Spotify and Apple, leaving comments, whatever it is. Share it with your friends if you're hearing this. Also, our socials are linked in the description down below on all the platforms you're hearing, Spotify, Apple, and YouTube. So Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Go follow us. I'm trying to be more active on Facebook.
Same.
To be fair, I think Facebook is probably the easiest way to grow a following. So
it's the one that has the most people, but it's just like the one that we, for some reason, just don't use as much.
Yeah, exactly. So, all right. So let's get into this. The Philadelphia Eagles traded quarterback Carson Wentz to the Indianapolis Colts for a 2021 third-round pick and a conditional 2022 second/first round pick. So what that means is, before we jump into what this means for the Colts and the Eagles, a conditional pick basically means if Carson Wentz plays 75% 75% of the snaps for the Colts that year in 2022, then the Eagles get their first round pick. If he does not, and somehow this trade does not work out for the Colts, then the Colts get to keep their first round pick. So first off, I want to say, I would imagine that this is the best offer they can get for Carson Wentz after such a down year for the Eagles. We got bench for Jalen Hurts. A lot of rumors floating around that he just didn't want to compete for his job. Whether that is to be the case or not, I don't know. Well, we're not in Philadelphia. We're on that team, so we don't know, right? We're just people talking sports. So first, I want to start with what this means for the Indianapolis Colts. You want to take this away?
Yeah, well, what this means for the Colts is now you finally have pretty much a complete team. I mean, you have a good, talented coming off their rookie year running back, Jonathan Taylor. You have a good offensive line led by Quentin Nelson. You have some rookie receivers and a veteran wide receiver in T.Y. Well, assuming they re-sign T.Y. Hill, and I don't know if they do.
I would imagine that they don't.
You don't think?
No, now that they've acquired a quarterback, not that this changes much for our mock draft yesterday because we didn't have them taking a quarterback in the first round. We kind of assumed they'd go the veteran route, right?
Carson Wentz specifically.
I think that with the departure of T.Y. Hill, and I don't really remember what we had them taking, but a wide receiver in round one or like a tight end in round one could be more than likely here if you want to give Wentz every single chance he can to be a successful franchise quarterback. I'll let you continue. Sorry for cutting you off.
No. It's a good thing you mentioned that. Well, regardless if they have T.Y. Hill or not, they still have Paris Campbell. They still have Michael Pittman Jr.
Yeah.
They still have a lot of good weapons. If they do want to add an additional first, talented wide receiver, especially one in the first round, great. But if not, they can solidify their defense now, which already has a good front seven. The secondary could be a little – it's not necessarily bad, but it could be better. So if you really want to, as the Colts, now that you have figured out your quarterback situation – now you can just start working on the little nook and crannies that you think is going to best work for your system. They can go receiver route. They can go defensive back route. Either way, this is a team that can now start contending in the playoffs I think they're going to do some big things. And the fact that they made it pretty far with Phillip Rivers and the roster they had and playing that well against the Buffalo Bills shows that this is a promising Super Bowl contender already.
Well, before I talk about wins, just yesterday we had them taking, we had Kwity Paye falling a little bit, the edge rusher out of Michigan, presumably most people's number one edge rusher, to pair with DeForest Buckner, right? DeForest Buckner? Yeah, DeForest Buckner. So yeah, that's where, like you're saying, they could solidify their defense. We had them doing that yesterday because we assumed they'd go the veteran route. So as far as the Colts are concerned with this win scene, what does this mean for them, right? Look, they're getting a former MVP candidate. He probably would have won the MVP had he not got hurt in I believe it was not his rookie year, but his second year in the league, right? The year that Nick Foles ended up winning the Super Bowl.
Right, as the backup.
Yes, such a loaded roster. And Foles just pulled the Joe Flacco and made the most out of his opportunity in the postseason, right? I think this is a really low risk and high reward for the Colts. So what this means, people are saying, how can you take on that contract? That's such a huge contract. I don't think what people understand is that they're only going to be paying Carson Wentz $22 million. That's an absolute bargain for a potential top 15 quarterback in this league. Is Carson Wentz going to come out and, go back to being a top 10 quarterback in this league? At this point, I don't think so. But is there a team where he could, kind of get back into that conversation like he was during that MVP run? Yes, this is the perfect team for him. He's with his former head coach that was the play caller when he was an MVP candidate. He's behind probably arguably the best offensive line in the NFL with probably the best lineman in the NFL, period, in Quentin Nelson, who is potentially moving to left tackle. I assume he'd be the best left tackle in the NFL if he were to move there. There's talk because their left tackle, Anthony Costanzo, I believe, he either retired or he's a free agent. I'm not sure, to be honest with you. I'm leaning towards retirement if I remember correctly. So don't quote me on that. But they have a hole at left tackle now. Look, this is basically the same exact contract as Teddy Bridgewater. And Carson Wentz, I think you and I would agree, has way higher upside than Teddy Bridgewater. Has a bigger arm. When he's protected, he's more accurate. And he's more athletic as well. So I think, and I see a lot of Colts fans on Twitter and whatnot being upset that they made this move. I want to ask you, at this point, would you rather be the Colts with Carson Wentz or a team with no plan at quarterback for the future, like the Broncos, like the Patriots, like the Bears, like the Washington football team? Despite how Taylor Heineke played, I view Wentz as better quarterback still. It's just a larger sample size, right? I would rather be the Colts right now taking a risk with Carson Wentz than one of these teams like the Broncos with Drew Lock. The Patriots have no quarterback. The Bears don't have a quarterback. They have Nick Foles. We're going to talk about what this trade means for the Bears because they're the only other team in the conversation. And Washington, there's rumors they're going to go after Mariota. If that happens, we'll talk about it. But I'd rather be the Colts than these other teams.
Well, it's not the question of would you rather be the Colts, but what's your favorite thing about why you would be part of the Colts? Because yeah, there's some risk to getting Carson Wentz because he hasn't been healthy throughout his entire career, but the Colts didn't just get any veteran quarterback. They got the quarterback that they want and needed for a fair price, and assuming he does stay healthy and does play a majority of the snaps on the Colts offense, they're going to get a first-round pick out of the Eagles. So what better situation as a franchise than to find your quarterback for a handful of years, not pay for a big amount for that quarterback when most people are playing, I don't know, somewhere between the ranges of 27 to 30 million for a quarterback like that. And if you're the Chiefs, you pay like 40. Also, you have a quarterback that was already successful under that head coach's system. Mm-hmm. This is Frank Reich. I mean, this is the perfect combination of coach and quarterback because it's a system that we know has worked and has gotten even Nick Foles to the Super Bowl. So it's very low risk, as you said, Ryan, because the reward has already been seen between Frank Reich and Carson Wentz. And knowing that Carson Wentz now has a better team, a better offensive line, weapons, a defense that's going to hold their end. I mean, it's just perfect for the Colts. And if, again, assuming Carson Wentz is healthy, they're going to have another first-round pick in next year's draft which will allow them to build even more on this team.
Okay, so now I want to kind of first off, before we transition to what this means for the Eagles, my gut reaction is this will work, and I think the Colts, if this does work, they're in contention. They're right up there with the Chiefs. They're right up there with the Ravens, the Bills. Those are kind of the three main teams we have in the AFC now. I think the Colts roster-wise are good enough to compete with them, and if they can get the upside out of Wentz, I think they can absolutely win a Super Bowl as soon as next year. Maybe that's just me kind of, hanging on to what Carson Wentz was, but I just see the upside, and I think it's it's too good of a bargain here.
It is. It is. It really is. I guess now we can start talking about the Bear side, because we know the Bears, even though it's the Eagles that kind of were on the other deal of this end, we knew the Bears are going to be the ones who have been quarterback shopping, at least since we knew that Mr. Trubisky's not going to be the quarterback there next year.
Yeah, so they didn't pick up his option, Trubisky. So now, as on roster currently, they have Nick Foles, who I don't think they're going to be rolling with this year because he got benched for Mitch Trubisky. So after Mitch Trubisky got benched for him, so it's just a complete what show at quarterback over there for Chicago. Look, they have other options to go as far as the quarterback is concerned, but I think they missed out on the best available option for them. Look, I would bet that Wentz has the higher upside of all the quarterbacks I'm about to name. The other quarterbacks that they could go after, Jameis Winston, Marcus Mariota, they could make a trade for him. Ryan Fitzpatrick is hitting the market. Cam Newton is available, but they passed on Cam Newton last year for Nick Foles. So I don't think that's a realistic option. Alex Smith is a free agent, but do you really think Alex Smith can play in cold weather? I don't. And Sam Darnold could potentially be a bit available, depending on what the Jets do with the number 2 pick. I don't think that Deshaun Watson's a possibility for the Jets any longer. And you and I both agree, we would both take Justin Fields / Zach Wilson over Sam Darnold right now. So I'm assuming Darnold will be available. I would argue that out of all the quarterbacks I just named that will and should be available, Wentz has the highest upside, and he would have given the Bears the best shot to get in the postseason and compete, right? They would have to look. They currently hold the 20th pick in the draft, so they would have to trade up, I assume, to secure Zach Wilson, Justin Fields, or Trey Lance, depending on who they like the most and what quarterback is available, when they trade up. So they could probably stay put where they're at and get Mac Jones. But to me, Mac Jones and Nick Foles are pretty similar type quarterbacks. Neither has the strongest arm. I think that Mac Jones would have better pocket presence and awareness than a Nick Foles, but I don't see Mac Jones as a huge upgrade over Nick Foles like Trey Lance, Justin Fields, or Zach Wilson would be. So I just really think the Bears are in a really bad spot here. I don't know which direction they go. And I mean, I don't think that they're going to rock with Nick Foles next year. So what do you think the Bears should do here?
I see them going to get a new quarterback via trade more than I see them in free agency. I really feel like if they are considering going back into the playoffs and let alone winning the wild card weekend, they need to get a talented quarterback that can help them more long term. Who that's going to be and for what team and all that, I don't know, because again, a lot could happen. And we've talked about in our last podcast about this mock draft how we don't we don't count in possible trades that could happen. Chicago is going to create a mess in that draft order, Ryan. How they will, I don't know, but our mock draft will be off because of the Chicago Bears. I can tell you that, at least that much.
Well, I can imagine a Trey Lance who's a little more raw falling to say pick 10, where the Dallas Cowboys would be picking, and maybe the Cowboys and the Bears make a swap there just because there's not a lot of blue chip defensive caliber players that are available at the top end of this draft besides Micah Parsons, but Micah Parsons obviously has off the field issues. You could argue about Patrick Surtain, Caleb Farley. Do I think that they're a for sure, a Derwin James, Jalen Ramsey coming out? No, I don't think so. So I just think they're in a really bad spot here. At Picks 20 yesterday, we had them taking Elijah Vera Tucker. I don't know if that is a realistic option at this point for them. I think they have to trade up in the draft and get one of these quarterbacks, or go out and pay money for a Jameis Winston. I don't know what their cap situation is like, but out of all the quarterbacks I named, I think Winston has the most upside potential. And even then, like, are you prepared to bet that a year off for Winston is your answer long term in Chicago? I don't know if I would want to make that bet.
I'm not a fan of it either. And really under Nagy's system, I've yet to really see a quarterback thrive in Chicago. Rather it's been Mitch Trubisky, rather it's been Nick Foles. There's been 3-4 other quarterbacks under Matt Nagy's system. And it's been a while since I've seen a quarterback in Chicago stay as the quarterback in Chicago. Not since Jay Cutler. So if Matt Nagy really wants to find a quarterback that's going to work long term, not only is he going to be aggressive with the GM of Chicago in trades, but he's also going to have to relook at his system, relook at the players that he has, and goes, how can I work around the quarterback we're going to get? And he's not going to have a more definite answer on that until they get a quarterback. But if you're Chicago offensively, you have to relook at what you've been able to do and what you haven't been able to do. Because from my perspective, just from watching the Bears games, the only thing I really seen them do well is run the ball.
Yeah, and that's a testament to the scheme they run and, David Montgomery being a great running back. So one more thing before we sign off, ladies and gentlemen. We've kind of covered all angles of the Carson Wentz trade besides what it means for the Eagles. I think this could potentially end up being pretty bad for the Eagles. So they have to swallow a $30+ million cap hit. I believe it was $34 million, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong, but just know it was more than $30 million. So that's not good on their salary cap. And for a team that has a lot of work to do via free agency in the draft, I really envision that the Eagles will be last in their division. Like, you look around the NFC East, the Cowboys are going to get Dak Prescott back, and that's obviously an instant upgrade over Andy Dalton. Some people view him as a top 10 quarterback in this league. I think he's borderline, Dak being a borderline top 10 quarterback. It just kind of depends on your order, maybe that's a future podcast we could do. We could rank all 32 starting quarterbacks. That could be fun.
That would be interesting.
We'll definitely get in some disagreements there, I'm sure. But and it makes me ask the question, I know that, look, we talked about this before the podcast, and neither of us envision Philadelphia taking a quarterback at 6. But if I was running the Eagles, I would ask myself, has Jalen Hurts done enough to keep his job and be the starter going forward? I would at least bring in a veteran quarterback to compete with him, right? Just because down the stretch last year, he started off hot, he played really good, and then he kind of flamed out towards the end of the year. So was that a testament to, maybe teams started to figure him out? I don't know, but I wouldn't look. I don't envision it happening, but don't be shocked if the Eagles were to trade up or sit at 6 and take a chance on a quarterback. Just don't be surprised, because Trey Lance and Justin Fields, one of them could be available at pick 6. And, just all I'm saying is don't be surprised. I don't envision it happening, and I know you don't either. But Eagles fans, don't be shocked if it happens.
No, I think they're going to stick with Jalen Hurts, at least for this year. See where he fits as a starting quarterback. One of the things that we keep forgetting about the Eagles is that they're now transitioning into a new head coach. Last year they had Doug Peterson, and in my opinion, it was kind of one of the reasons why Carson Wentz's career as an Eagle kind of fell out. Simply because as soon as they lost Frank Reich, they really didn't have a system that best worked for Carson Wentz, which was a system that worked really well, especially for, again, Nick Foles. I really think by having a new head coach, only time will tell to see if Jalen Hurts is going to be the QB1 long-term for the Eagles. But I think you got to at least keep him, let him play some games, see if it does or not. Because new Eagles quarterback Nick Sirianni, we don't know much about him. We really don't.
All we know is that he's going to be bringing in Frank Reich's system which Carson Wentz obviously had so much success in. That's why, when they made this hire to go get Nick Sirianni after his terrible press conference that we've all seen, it's strange because I remember us discussing this. It seemed that bringing this guy in that ran Frank Wright system, that more than likely they were going to roll with Wentz because this is the system that he had success in. But I guess it was just too much damage or too much relationship with the front office. I don't know. They moved on, obviously. Look, I mentioned it yesterday that Cam Newton could be a possibility here for Philadelphia. With the Wentz gone, dude, they have to bring in at least someone to compete and push Jalen Hurts. I don't think he's shown enough to warrant that. I still think they go receiver or corner at 6 because, that's what they need. They need a playmaker in the secondary, and they need a playmaker offensively at the wide receiver position. Now, that's what I think is going to happen, and that is, I would bet money that that's what's going to happen. But if they should bring in a Ryan Fitzpatrick, an Alex Smith, a Cam Newton, just to compete with him, to push him, and in case the Jalen Hurts experience doesn't go so well.
Well, I'll say realistically, the two quarterbacks that would probably be good within the Eagles depth chart is Cam Newton and Alex Smith. Just because Alex Smith, he's still kind of recovering. He's played some games, but he's still recovering from his big injury. And then also Cam Newton, obviously he's kind of realizing that he does need to sit back, just be in the quarterback room basically for the year. And, he can compete against Jalen Hurts for the starting job. But I still feel Jalen Hurts, just because he's younger, his arm's a little bit better, I think he'll still be thriving. I think what this trade says about the Eagles and about Nick Sirianni is that he's willing to go with the younger route with Jalen Hurts because he feels Jalen Hurts can fit in a system similar to what Carson Wentz has thrived in. So I think at this point, it was simply about, okay, which quarterback do you want? Do you want to have the guy that has already worked in the system but is a little bit older and has had injuries already, or do you go with the new quarterback who's at least already been under the Eagles for the last couple of years, who's already worked with Carson Wentz, and you probably can teach him the ways rather than just try and restart it once again with Carson Wentz. And for Sarni, it was, let's just stick with the younger quarterback. He's younger, he's healthier, he's a little bit more mobile. We can do more things with him. We can add Frank Reich's system on top of a few other nooks and crannies, some bells and whistles, I guess you could say. So if you're the Eagles, regardless, you're not getting quarterback at 6 because, again, the only way any of these quarterbacks, Cam, Jalen Hurts, Carson Wentz, Alex Smith, any of them are going to do well for Philadelphia is if you bring in some type of weapons and some type of defense that helps support them. And that's the thing that they're going to address first right off the bat, especially in the draft.
All right. Yeah, I agree with everything you just said. And I think with that, we're going to wrap up the show. I don't know how long it was. I would imagine it's around the 20-minute mark. Either way, I think that this trade really is going to change the landscape of the NFL because I think that the Colts are now, I think they're a Super Bowl contender now if this can work out. So is there anything else you want to add before we take off, Ashton?
Just best of luck to Carson Wentz. I like watching Colts games. I really think they're a fun franchise to watch. Ever since I watched Peyton Manning play, I've always thought that they were just a fun team to kind of see. And then, being a fan of Stanford football, watching Andrew Luck getting drafted there, I always had some type of history with the Colts. So I really hope that their partnership with Carson Wentz and under Frank Reich's system, I really hope it all works out like I think it is.
Yeah, same here. I'm a fan of well-run organizations, and they are definitely one of the best in the business, one of the elite franchises in the league. All right, ladies and gentlemen, with that, we are going to conclude the Stampede podcast. Ryan Jones, along with Ashton Yanis, please do all you can to support us, like I mentioned in the beginning of the podcast. I'm not going to repeat it here to keep you guys here forever. And with that, we're gonna get out of here, and we'll see you guys next time here on the Stampede podcast. Bye.
Peace.